Our next inductee, Mr. John Callahan, Sergeant Muldoon, here to induct him, Mel Simons. And of course, here to induct John, Mr. Mel Simons.
Good evening, everyone. I was a young man when this evening started. I need a shave, I've been here so long. It's like the two guys that are at a bar. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. One guy looks at his watch. He says, "My God, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. My wife is going to kill me when I get home." The other guy says, "No, listen to me. Do like I tell you, there'll be no problem." He says, "I realize it's late. So when you get home, sneak into the house. Sneak upstairs. Sneak into the bedroom. Get in bed. Make wild, passionate love. She'll never be angry." He says, "That's a good idea. I'm going to do it." So the guy goes home, he sneaks into the house, he sneaks upstairs, he sneaks into the bedroom, he gets in bed, he makes wild, passionate love. When he finishes, he goes into the bathroom, and there's his wife. She said, "Shh, mother's sleeping over." Did you understand that, Tito? Okay. Explain it, Pete, to him. For many years, I had the honor of being Killer Kowalski's ring announcer, and it was great working for the Killer and all the wonderful wrestling stars that he got started. One of my very favorite, and I mean it, was Big John Callahan. "John, you wait till I finish and then you come up. You don't come up first and then I..." Yes, that's how it works. John was about 200 pounds heavier when he started. He was a big guy, let me tell you. What a terrific gentleman. His personality reminded me of Walter's. Those of you that knew Killer Kowalski. Very quiet gentleman, but in the ring, a tiger, an animal, and that was John Callahan. He was so good when he started that immediately the how many W's? I get confused. 7 W's. Vince started using John, and he worked for WWF, for 5 years. And John worked with the biggest stars. He worked with Strongbow. He worked 3 times with Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughter, and he was terrific. Big John Callahan in that time. Then he went on to work for other people. He worked for the Savoldis, Dino Bravo out of Canada, and he became Sergeant Muldoon. He also had many other gimmicks that he did. Whatever he did, he was the best at. A wonderful gentleman, a terrific worker, I think one of the best that New England has given us. It is my pleasure to induct into the Hall of Fame Big John Callahan.
Oh, that was a little humbling. I'll take my time up here. I don't want to rush through anything, you know. Take. Oh, I thought you meant a real drink. Not that.
I got it. You don't need that.
I'm Irish, for crying out loud. Go get some whiskey, will you?
Hey, listen.
Oh shit, he's got whiskey.
I'm a lawyer. Black Irish.
Excellent. Oh my God, that was horrible. Well, I got to thank a few people first to make it all possible, because when I was 10 years old, I fell in love with this business. I was watching TV, and it was Capital Wrestling. and George Steele had Manuel Soto on the mat, and he was stomping his arm. And that moment I knew, I wanted to do that. That's the business I have to be in. So when I got out of high school and really didn't have anything else going well in my life, I decided, well, let's give this a shot. So I really got to thank Walter for having the patience of a saint, because he took a bunch of green guys, brought us to the gym, and put up with us for 4 hours every night, and until we started learning something from him. And without him, it wouldn't have happened for a lot of the boys, and a lot of the boys that are here, it never would have happened. And of course, I have to thank my wife, wherever she is, somewhere in those first few rows, there she is. Although we've been married 18 years, and she didn't, we weren't married when I first started wrestling, so she got the brunt end of the business, where, you know, it wasn't the high spots and where you're making money, it's more the low spots and where you're breaking bones and things aren't staying in place anymore, and maybe I should be drinking super glue instead of whiskey. And I got to thank a guy that a lot of you may not remember this guy, Ricky Sexton. Does anybody remember Ricky Sexton? Ricky had wings. No kidding. He'd come to the dressing room, and if there was a new guy, he'd say, look at the wings. Go like this. And then he'd take a cup and he'd stick it on his pec, and he'd hold it up like this. Look at that. Oh, look at that kid. It's the best match you're ever going to have. Right? Am I right? Ricky gave me some of the best advice I ever could have had. He once told me I should only hang around with people who are better looking, who are smarter, and have more class. So I took his advice and I stopped hanging around with Ricky Sexton. When I was breaking in, this is back in '79, and of course, being from New England, you're engrossed in the New York office. There was no independent offices, and there was no other place to go. So my first match was with Dominic DeNucci. And Dominic, I grew up idolizing. I couldn't believe that this was going to be my very first match. And Angelo Savoldi pulled me aside and said, look, kid, don't be nervous. Just go out there and do what you know how to do. Listen to what Dominic tells you. And do whatever he says. For 8 minutes, Dominic didn't say a goddamn thing. I was totally lost, had no clue what I was doing, so I learned a valuable lesson. And I never, ever again waited for somebody to tell me what to do when I was in the ring. And that caused some problems later on, but it was all right. My second match, I wrestled for 20 years, so this is going to take a while, was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And that's where the WWF did their TV, obviously. It was a tag match. I teamed up with Johnny Rods, and we went against Ivan Putski and Tito Santana. And if I had a better partner, we would have kicked your ass that night. And if you had a better partner, you would have been tag team champion for a hell of a longer time. How many people might remember Bedlam from Boston? That was a TV show on Channel 25. And it came out of a breakdown in friendships, I guess, and we spawned a new office, and Walter was doing the booking, so obviously everybody who worked for Walter or trained with Walter got on the show. And we were the #2 show in Boston for our time spot, which was pretty amazing, considering that, you know, the New York office had 3 TVs on at that time, and then here's a bunch of green kids coming on TV, and all of a sudden we move up to the #2 spot. And we had some guys who were experienced, though. We had the Valiant Brothers, and we had Dominic DeNucci and Larry Zbyszko and David Sammartino. We'll save those stories for later. And Richard Byrne, wherever he is. Where is Richard? He's somewhere here. He was there. He is out in the back. He was there. Myself. The O'Reillys hadn't started yet, and yeah. And I know there's somebody. Oh, I know what I'm getting. Handsome Ricky Sexton was there with his wings. And when I left New York, I went to work for a place called Northeast Wrestling. It was out in Springfield. And at that time, a lot of places were starting up. And Mario Savoldi was starting his thing, and Arthur was starting his. So we had all these different offices that we were going to. So in one office, I might wrestle as John Callahan with just black tights. The next office, I would wrestle as Sergeant Muldoon with fatigues and black tights. Then I'd come back out as a ninja or I'd come back out as the Karate Kid. And I had this bag, it was like a civil bag. It was like 16 personalities in this bag. So I was working for Alpha one night, and I said, Alpha, you know, I got this great idea for a gimmick. And he said, well, what is it, brother? I said, well, I'll grow my hair long, I'll go barefoot, and I'll become Tutti Frutti, your white Samoan nephew. He's looking at me like I lost my mind. And then he says, brother, I don't think that's going to work. I said, you don't think I can be a Samoan? He said, no, nobody's going to believe my sister had a kid that ugly. So I'm going to, you know, a lot of boys write books and it's all autobiographies, but I was going to write a book and it was all road stories. And the first chapter was going to be Life on the Road with Sam. Because there's nothing like Life on the Road with Sam.
And I was only a teenager. If you stop following teenagers.
We did a show out in Pennsylvania. It was somewhere around Philadelphia. And at that time I was working main events for Alpha. It was Alpha and Sam against myself and DC Drake. Now we worked the same match. We worked just as hard. We went about 30, 40 minutes, whatever it was. Got the match over. The car broke down on the way back home. So we stayed at that, remember the girl's house we stayed at, Sam? In Pennsylvania? Oh, what do you mean you don't know? Of course you know. She was like 4x4. You know, she hung around with the girl with the purple hair that was in love with Rene Goulet. It was just outside of Philadelphia. I think Nancy was her name. Yeah, well, yeah, now it all comes back. Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows Nancy.
Yeah, I know. All the boys know Nancy.
She's got the best directions from Philly. Besides the professor.
So now we're staying at her mother's house. Sam is a star. He gets to sleep up in the bedroom. Where do the rest of us sleep? Down in the basement, in a pottery room. But that's okay, Sam. It's fine. We don't hold any grudges. Because if you ever want to find out how to go to a buffet, you just have to go with Sam. Is in Philadelphia, they have these buffets. They're on like spindles, and they come out of the kitchen. It's all like this big rotary thing. And so I go to the middle, and Sam says, no, don't go to the middle. Come over here, right where the stuff's coming out the window. We want it hot. And we're standing there eating while this buffet is going by us. Brother, I think we're supposed to sit down. No, just stay here. It's okay. It's all you can eat. This is all I can eat. Now there's down at Steve Kern's gym in Florida, there's a plaque, and I think that, you know, when somebody breaks into the business, they really need to go by these words that he has on this plaque. And it goes like this: I am a pro wrestler. I had a dream, I pursued my dream. I am humble, but I am confident. I am kind, but this is not a weakness, it's my strength. I believe in myself. I am greater, I don't belong here. I will train hard, my skills will be tested, but I won't give up. I will help my peers with encouragement. I will not criticize or discourage others. I will always show respect to others who have paved my way. I will remain open to suggestions at all time. I want to learn. I had a dream, the dream came true. Thank you, God, I am proud to be a professional wrestler. And that is definitely something that we live by every day. You know, that was really resounding to me because when I was in high school, my guidance counselor asked me what I wanted to do with myself, because I obviously wasn't cut out for college. And I really didn't have much of a direction to go in. So I told him, well, I want to be a pro wrestler. He said, that's a pipe dream, that'll never happen. But this has been one hell of a pipe dream. It's lasted 32 years. And you still got any whiskey in that thing?
James, I thought you said it was horrible.
It is horrible, but I'll drink anything. I'm still Irish. Thank you. All right, working the Indies in New England, you know, everybody was like family. We were always together, and we always worked as close as we could, and we were just like brothers. And there's a few brothers that were very close to us that are no longer with us. And I just want to raise my glass tonight to Mike Shaw. He was Bastion Booger in WWF. The gentleman Chris Duffy, Dana Carpenter, Rodney Anoi, John Cronus, Big City Mike, and my brother Jack Savage. Rest in peace, brothers. And there is a couple of things that I just want to do before I leave, and that is, last year Joe sent out an email and asked for people to donate boots and tights and whatever memorabilia for the Hall of Fame. And I just happen to have a few things. Can we go? Yeah. You do. Now, back when I was watching wrestling in the 70s, you got to know when wrestling was coming to town because every store would be posted with the wrestling card. So to donate these tonight to the Hall of Fame is really a pleasure of mine. This first one is a Tony Santos production. It was from the Frolics at Salisbury Beach, and the card that Johnny Vegas talked about earlier. The poster has Baron Miguel Cicluna versus Ivan Putski, Spiros Arion versus Chief J Strongbow, Mike Paducis and Hans Schroeder against Dom DeNucci and Pat Barrett, and the two other all-star bouts. That was the best part of the card, the two other all-star bouts. Where is Joe? We're going to have a display for these coming out in next year, and hopefully, we'll be getting more memorabilia. The next poster I'm going to have, this came from 1985, and we were in an office called Northeast Wrestling in Springfield. And the significance of this poster is that this promoter thought that he had to bring in stars to draw, when he really didn't. The guys who were working the undercard were actually the stars of the show. And he would bring in these guys from North Carolina that nobody knew. And when they'd get out there, you could hear the crickets chirping. We'd get out there, and the place would erupt. And this is from the Worcester Auditorium. Billy Graham and Rocky Johnson were listed as the main event. The actual main event was myself and Tony Ulysses, and we tore the house down that night. And now the third one I'm going to do, this is from the Springfield Civic Center, and the significance of this one was at this time, New York came back to Springfield. They hadn't been there in a while. So when they came in, they only drew 2,000 people in the house. We came in a week and a half later, and we drew 3,000 people. And the main event was myself and Tony Ulysses with the O'Reilly Brothers, the Comanche Kid, and the Prince of Pain. And now, when we talked about donating tights and things like that, one of the gimmicks that I was most remembered for was being Sergeant Muldoon. And that gimmick actually had two different characters. When I went to Montreal, I was an Irish freedom fighter. I had fatigues, a black mask. Got a little heat up there. And they told me that that wouldn't work because this is a French province. And I said, I think it will work because Canada is very loyal to England. And it did work. People wanted to see me dead every night. But I came back to the States, and the problem with that gimmick is it drew too much heat. And there would be a lot of nights, especially when I'm wrestling the O'Reilly Brothers, that I'd end up in brawls outside the ring. So we decided we needed to change the gimmick just a little bit. And one of the ones that I had talked about doing for a long time was a police gimmick, New York City cop. So we kept the same name, Sergeant Muldoon, and I became a New York City cop. And I followed the advice of Tony Atlas. And Tony told me that, nobody really likes cops. You should really be a good guy and really be a role model. No, that wasn't a good idea. No, not at all. No. So I changed that gimmick, and I became a badass cop that just went out of his way to be arrogant and a jerk, just what I love to do. And it worked, and we started drawing. And Joe, this is the uniform that I wore as Sergeant Muldoon. Please, thank you. So, You know, the best part about this business is, and a lot of times you just have acquaintances, and it's guys you meet along the way, and sometimes you remember them, and sometimes you don't. But when you're working in a territory like this, where the boys are really close, it's nice because you consider everybody your friends, and everybody's a brother. And for everybody I ever worked with, and there's a lot of them, thank you all. And I especially want to thank Richard Byrne for not kicking my ass, because we did a karate match, and you should have, yeah. I learned karate from watching Professor Tanaka on TV.
No Jetsu.
But thank God he didn't know that at the time. So I just want to thank everybody, and thank you for this. And thank you, Joe.
Give it up one more time for John Callahan. And our next inductor at this time from BTW, Big Time Wrestling, it's Steve Perkins.